Welcome to the Building Doors Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Hurst. And on today's podcast, we're talking about VO trends. And not just VO trends, but VO trends across the pond. And whether we're seeing them just in the US or everywhere. And we're talking with Alex and Sean, the founders of Foxy Tongue Voices, a boutique voiceover agency out of Soho, London. So chic. So chic, so chic. Between them, Alex and Sean have over 20 years of casting and production experience, and a client list that includes Rolex, Coca-Cola, Samsung, Mattel, and Kellogg's. What? I actually met them initially through global door builder Katerina Surtees, who is also on their roster. And funny enough, the day after Alex and Sean and I first talked, they got a job sent to them from a client for an all-male roster. They only wanted men voicing. And after we talked, they decided to throw in a few women. What? That's where change happens. And we've been talking ever since. So I want to get into it right away and talk about all the things that are happening across the pond and in the United States. Welcome, Alex and Sean from Foxy Tongue Voices.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're excited.
Thank you for joining, because I have been doing a lot of behind the door newsletters. If you're not subscribed, please do. And we're talking a lot about what voiceover actors are seeing in the industry. And there's so much to talk about, right? There's AI, there's actual workflow. Like, is work steady? Is it declined? Is it, what is going on? And then also trends in gender in casting. And so I thought it would be interesting to bring you guys on and talk a little bit about what you're seeing, because the US and the UK are different. From my conversation, oh, Christy, really, they're different. Yes, they're different. But what I'm saying is, in terms of gender equality, I do talk to a lot of people around the world, producers, casting directors, and I know the UK is a little bit farther along than the US in terms of gender equality. And so I know things are a little different there. But let's start off with AI. Let's talk a little bit about AI and how it's affecting the voiceover industry. What are you guys seeing?
I mean, obviously, yeah, as we all know, AI is definitely taking a bit of a storm, which no one's happy about, including producers. By the way, we obviously have a lot of producer friends that hate it because they've got a job. They mainly get a lot of the AI jobs because the heads of the companies have invested so heavily in AI. And because of that, they're kind of pushing them to say, you have to use AI because we've just spent millions or billions of pounds on this AI software. You have to use it. So they have to push to the clients to say, oh, we can get you a much better voice with AI and it'll be so much cheaper for you guys. But I've spoken to a lot of people that have done purely radio ads, so no visuals. A radio ad should take a week, absolute max, especially with the human voice. You get them in the booth, you record a few takes, you mix it, put the SFX in, you deliver it. And I know people that have spent months on radio ads because the AI, they've got the first AI take, they say, we want to change one word. That you can't change one word, you have to redo the whole thing. When you then redo the whole thing, then it sounds different. And everyone, the producers are just so infuriated by it because AI, they are improving the AI, which obviously we don't want, but they are doing better. But it is just becoming a huge issue for everyone. And it's taking a radio campaign that should take a week is now taking months because they have to constantly be making these changes. That you can't just go to the human voice and say, can you just re-record that one line? They have to redo the whole thing with AI. And it just, we don't like it.
Yeah, I think exactly that. Like, we're hearing these stories from our friends who are being forced to use it, or they've offered it, or the clients ask, can we use an AI voice because it's so much cheaper? But like Alex said, people aren't enjoying the process. It's taking so much longer. So actually, is it really cost effective because you've got a freelancer or someone spending all of this time on it? And I don't think it will be long before the people who are higher up start to notice how delivery times are changing, how much time that freelancer who might be on, £350, £500 a day is spending trying to get this AI voice right when it could be done in an hour with some professional in the studio. So I don't think it will be long before we start to actually backtrack in those areas, because people are like, this actually isn't as cracked up as it, as people are selling it to be. And so, yeah, I'm a true believer in this is just a fad that people are exploring for now, but like it's not going to stick around long term. And I think we have to let people get it out of their systems and actually experience it. Because also another thing, sorry, we could talk all day about AI, couldn't we? But another thing is, like, when it becomes the law, and it's not here yet, and I imagine it's not there yet either, and it will take maybe a couple of years. But when it's the law for you to have to state that this is an AI voice on your campaign, or it's got to come up on the TV and there's in a subtitle, this is an AI voice. If you're selling a product for babies and you've got an AI mother saying, I use this for my toddler, I'm sorry, I'm not connecting with the brand, because you're trying to sell me something that's not even real. So we'll start to distrust brands even more, I think, when that becomes a necessity, and it will.
Yeah, I also feel as well. Oh, sorry, I've got one more thing. Obviously, we're very passionate about this. I spoke to a few producers, and obviously the head of productions and the big guys at the top that are very much like, we're using AI now. This is, if they push this hard on AI, it'll be the start of the end of the entire post-production world. They'll get an AI editor. They'll get, is in terms of, you just type something in, you want an edit of a unicorn riding a dolphin, boom, done, AI voice, something like that. They can create the entire thing in AI, and then no one needs an editor, no one needs After Effects, no one needs a sound mixer, an engineer, a studio, post-production facilities. It will end the whole post-production world. So I feel like there should be more accountability, and people at the higher levels trying to get it back to how it should be, because it'll be, so many people will be out of jobs if it continues.
So the trend that voice actors are starting to see is that major brands are now putting qualifiers on their ads. All human ad. This video was created with all humans, especially on social media reels and a few commercials, and in print. Like, they'll purposely say all humans were used to create this ad. And so there's this issue of trust, and you guys touched upon it. And I also see that the pendulum has swung so far one way with AI that people immediately, especially, there's a study done of the younger generation. What is it? Gen who? What is it? Okay.
Z.
Yeah. Y, Z, ABC. I don't know. There was a study done with the younger generation that basically the minute they even think that it's AI, they scroll. They pay no attention whatsoever. And and as we all know, consumers' attention is gold. That's what advertising wants, right? They want people to stay, sit, and watch. And so brands are starting to have to define if they're using AI or not, because the influencer economy is crumbling. People are sick and tired of being sold to. People are sick and tired of getting online and somebody that they don't know coming in and saying they should buy this or buy that. People are retreating to smaller communities, small niche communities, where they can be around people who have the same likes and interests and get recommendations from them. And so I think everything's going to shift more towards, we're going to find a balance, is what I'm saying. And hopefully that will come with with laws that are instituted, hopefully. So that is our AI talk. That's our AI talk. I want to get into specs, because I want to talk about what kind of specs you guys are seeing. So there was a VO training facility here in the United States who went to a big VO conference and kind of did a survey of what the topics were being talked about with casting directors and what they saw. And they did like a top 10 list. Like, here are the top 10 things that we got from casting directors when we went to this big conference. And one of them was that casting directors have seen an uptick in the number of requests for male-only voices and requesting more men. And I wanted to hear your take and see if you have something similar. Because as we all know, at least here in the United States, the leadership of the country and their attitudes about men, women, all that other stuff kind of dictate things in terms of advertising. So to me, it's not shocking that they're asking for more male voices. What's going on over in your neck of the woods?
Well, luckily, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing a trend either way. It's relatively balanced. Would you agree, Alex?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely more balanced, and even in the sort of American briefs that we're seeing come in, I wouldn't say we're seeing a heavy sort of load on wanting male voices. But what I would say, just on, as you've mentioned, maybe where things are slightly different here, we don't have we don't have Trump. But just going back to that, just on your comment there about people expressing and making it known that this is all created by humans and this is a human voice, what we are seeing is a real drive for quirky, imperfect voices, these real like niche requests for things, so that obviously as soon as someone hears it, they go, that can't be AI. And so I would say now more than ever, there's this need to distinguish yourself as, throw the super polished reels away, because that's where we were, but now we're seeing. Do you agree, Al?
Oh, massively, yeah. I feel like we've been getting a lot of briefs that have been like open to any gender, just someone that is really different, which is great because obviously then we can kind of go in. But yeah, like Siân said, we've definitely seen an increase in people saying we do not want, and I've spoken to a few voices that are like, the amount, if I could have £1 for the amount of times I get a brief that says not like voiceover or not too commercially. And it's so tricky because it's like, you're kind of, you're trying to sell an ad, but people want that guy next door, the girl next door, someone with a very quirky voice that you can't replicate through AI or through anything else, or someone that's just going to be completely different to whatever you've heard before. So I do feel like we've not received that yet, in terms of we've not seen an influx of a lot of male only casting. It has been a lot of open to either gender or all genders, and which is great. So hopefully we don't start seeing that, because we've won a few big campaigns lately for females as well. So that's it's been amazing. Yeah.
So I will say that trend of different voices or just everyday voices is very, very prevalent here in the US as well. It is frustrating to some voice actors because we have spent so many years on our craft, and they want Deborah from the pretzel shop at the mall. Like, that's what it's coming off as, when really I think what voice actors are struggling with right now is being themselves. So you get this script and you have to read it as yourself, the every average day person, not the actor that you have built yourself to be. And so that's a hard shift. It's a hard shift to happen. I have a question about the nuts and bolts of what you do. So I have been having workshops with casting directors, and I want to provide the Building Doors community as many different vantage points from the industry as possible. So for example, I've had a casting director in one of our workshops walk through her process of when she gets an audition in, what happens, right? So everything from, okay, I send this audition out to probably 5 or 6 agents, and then I receive about 900 to 1,200 auditions. So I will listen to about that much, but here's the process. The ones that did not label correctly, immediately out. I don't even listen to them. So that, gets away about 25% of the castings, the auditions. Then I listen to the first 3 seconds of what's left. And then I divide it, so on and so forth. Then there are some agents who listen to every single take. They listen to the whole first take and the whole second take. They write notes. They have a scoring system. There are others who hate lead-ins. They do not want to lead in, don't do it. And there are others that, yes, if I'm listening to 1,500 auditions and you don't put a lead in, and the spec was women 30 to 45, guess what? You're all probably going to sound the same, so put a lead in. So tell me about your nuts and bolts process when you get a casting.
Do you want me to go, Alex?
Oh, yes. No, did I just ask a not good question? What?
No.
It's something that we do so automatically that I'm just trying to think how we break it down. So, I mean, because there's two angles as well. You've got if I was coming at this with my producer head and I was doing a casting, but then we got the agent head. So obviously the agency will receive a casting and we know that it's probably gone to a few different agencies, right? So we will send whatever the casting says, we'll send it to the best matched people in our minds. So and if let's say it's an audition, can you get this audition in? We usually will bring the deadline forward so that we've got time to ask them to do any retakes. I think we're a little bit different from what I've heard in that most agents don't give much feedback on auditions. Like they'll just take it and move on. But obviously we want our voices to have the best possible shot at winning the job. So we will send it out, obviously receive the auditions back. I will rename the files if they are named incorrectly, but I will send a little nudge, just like, guys, come on. And then, would listen to the whole thing, send feedback, make sure everything's correct. And then I don't know if you do this, Alex, but I will shortlist what we've been sent. So if there's something that just isn't hitting the mark for me, even after feedback, or it's not quite there, I might not include it in what I send to the client. That being said, if I was casting as a producer, which obviously I did over 10 years prior to Foxy Tongue, I would, if something was named incorrectly, out the door, because I need someone who's paying attention and is gonna, treats my time with respect, I think is part of it. Do you know what I mean? I don't have time to do that. But yeah, it sounds harsh, but you usually will know within the first 3 seconds, and then I would click through. Then I would shortlist those people, and then I would listen to the whole thing to make a decision from there. So it really is, you really do have about 3 seconds to impress someone, which sounds brutal.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I think, like Shah said, we've got two different kind of heads in terms of agency side. We will, like, obviously me and Sean both edit as well. So if we kind of get a reel and we're like, okay, they're like, I don't have time to edit it, or they've sent over 4 takes and we know we only need 2, and then I'll cut down and make sure I've got the best 2 takes from the voice, and then edit that, mix, like kind of export that, mix that out. So yeah, it's tricky because sometimes as well, I think the quality won't be as good. And again, I try to kind of like do a bit more like sound noise cancellation. So we try to just help to make sure that, because if you've got something that's bad quality, obviously we will normally go back to them and say, look, can you just either get a quieter room? Can you redo it because it's too, noisy? If they don't have the time, or if they're away, for instance, then we'll try and help them out. But we normally do listen to the whole thing through as an agent, and then we'll feedback. As a producer, same with me, I would always listen, especially if we got their demo reels. I'll listen to the first 5 seconds, then the middle 5 seconds, and then the end 5 seconds, and then kind of go through that. Because especially as a producer, you're so busy, you'll get so many demos, especially if you've gone to 5 agencies, they've all sent you 10, you need to quickly go through it, shortlist, send it to the client, they want it to go again, you send another, shortlisted few. So it's about saving the producers and the agents time as much as possible to help us out.
And so what do you guys recommend voiceover actors do to stand out?
I mean, I'll say, being responsive is always a winner, because, especially when we send auditions or castings, if we haven't heard back, and I've I do have to I'll get to the night and I know that the auditions are all due by the morning. I'll go through who I've sent it to and haven't even got a reply to. And I'll be like, are you auditioning for this or not? Because it's even to come back and say, yeah, I will, it'll be with you before the deadline, or even, no, I can't. Absolutely fine. We'll never say oh, no. We'll always be absolutely, don't worry about it. So I think definitely being responsive helps. I think, what else, Sean?
My big one is but I've heard other people don't like this, but I love someone who's brave enough to slightly ad-lib or has done the work to find the non-obvious read. That for me, if you've heard 50 auditions of this script, the one that's going to stand out is the one that's done something slightly different or changed the intonation there in a slightly more interesting way. That takes work and skill and time, and also knowing when a little ad-lib might just elevate something. I love that, and I just think, I'm going to get you in the booth and you're going to bring a whole new level of creativity to this process. So yeah, I love that. But I've heard some people are really anti ad-libs and changes because they're honour the script and it's the client's script, and so I completely see that side of it too, and that's why you have to be really careful as to how far you take it and whether it's a cheeky something that you add on at the end, or actually if it's a character so you can afford to be a bit more playful with it. It's hard to know where the line is. I don't envy you at all.
I think also as well, even not ad-libbing, but if you say, send an audition and they said 2 takes, I think just switch both takes up completely. So do one that's kind of similar to the brief and obviously, matching the brief, and another one that's just a bit rogue, but also works so well with the script. And I think that also really helps, because when you hear that, you're first take, if they change their accent up, if they change this whole style or the tone, I think it's nice, because if you're hearing the same take twice, it almost becomes a bit oh, I've already heard that, but even though it's the same voice.
And so many people do that, don't they? Yeah. I think, why have you done it? The delivery is almost exactly the same. Yeah. But I guess it's just that lack of bravery, and we love a daredevil, don't we?
We do.
So what is your take then? Because in the US, a lot of voice actors do that. They will do the first take exactly to spec. And then the second one, they just put the you, them, the Christy for me, right? I add my spin on it, right? And so what some casting directors and agents are saying is flip-flop it now. Put the rogue one first, and the suspect second, because that's one of the ways in the first 3 to 4 seconds that you're going to stand out. What do you guys think of that? Because you are the gatekeepers, right? It's not like the client. Well, that's another question then. Because, oh my gosh. So that's part one of my question, which is, do you think that people should put the rogue one first? And then second question is, there are agents who due to the sheer volume of what they're working with, will set up drop boxes for their client. They send out the audition, they put the Dropbox link out, and voice actors immediately go in and start putting their auditions in. And it is kind of like a P2P in some ways, where the faster you get in, the more likely you are to be heard, because the client has direct access and immediately starts listening. There is no vetting, they don't have time. And so there's something to be said of, well, if you go back to my first part of the question where you flip and you go rogue first, but the client is the one listening. So what do you guys think of all of that?
Yeah, I think it depends with that in terms of flipping, because I think if you've gone rogue, but it's not good, it's not as good as the kind of 2-spec ad, I think that's when obviously there could then be issues. If you've gone rogue and it's amazing and it's so different, then brilliant. I think it just depends. But I think also with your second question, we wouldn't personally do that, because I think we like to get it back, listen to it, feedback to them, say, hey, could you maybe try a different take like this? Or that's working really well, but why don't, you flip the takes around, stuff like that. I think if we had our voices, even though obviously we trust our voices implicitly, if they were putting it into the Dropbox link, it's nice for us to feedback. That's part of the job that me and Sian love so much. So I think we would miss out on that kind of that chat between our voices to say like, oh, you nailed it, or, you know, things like that.
I think as well, on that first question, it depends how rogue you've gone as to whether someone's going to listen to 3 seconds and go, this isn't what I've asked for at all. And I think potentially the way to curb or to help yourself answer that question is looking at going back to that brief, and it's about determining how concise it is. Is it concise because this client knows exactly what they want, or is it vague because they're not actually quite sure what they want, and so there's room actually for you to play? And you'll find that most clients don't actually really know what they want until they hear it. And your instinct, because you do this all the time and you know what you book, will probably be right. And I think trust that, because there's been times when I've seen stuff on TV that we've put our voices up for, and I think that's not the brief we received. And actually it just was that next level of, you know, someone had just tweaked something slightly. And so I think that's part of it, is look at the brief and trust your gut. Do they actually know what they want? Or does your reading of this lend to actually there's probably room here for me to, you know, I don't know, expand and stuff. So yeah, that's a good one to help make the decision.
Yeah, it is. And I think that you touched on something that I've been seeing a lot, which is we get sometimes 6 paragraphs of a spec. If it takes a client that much to describe what they want, they don't know what they want.
Absolutely not.
And what I also find interesting is lately I will do an audition for a client, and I'll do, you know, the 2 takes as I described before. But then 3 or 4 days later, they'll do another recap. Like the client has decided after hearing auditions that they want to switch up the spec. Well, no, the client got what they wanted. They didn't like what they thought they wanted. And so now that they've heard it, they want to switch it up. Yeah. And I will just say this, it is your choice as a voice actor, but I think, you know, well, I won't take it all the way back. When I first graduated college and I was doing a traditional 9-to-5 job, my dad told me something, and I'll never forget it. I was interviewing with people to get a job, and he said, how they treat you in the interview process is how they'll treat you at the job. And so I've always remembered that. And I say to myself, if they're recasting once or putting out a new spec, so here's one spec. Oh, now that we've heard it, we want this. Oh, and then they come back even a 3rd time, which I've seen 4 times. Is that somebody that you think is going to be fun to work with?
I mean, it will be a long session, that's for sure.
It'll be a real long session.
Yeah, we've been there like as producers. I had a 4-hour session for a mouthwash company, and they just went. The creative was like, "Can we do a take where you're running? You feel like you're almost running and you're trying to catch up with something. And then a take where you sound underwater, and then a take and the voiceover obviously pro was like." Yeah, fine. Like, and I was just kind of like, so sorry. Because obviously I was a producer just trying to like, I'm so sorry about this. And he was just like, it is what it is. Like, he was just, and they were like, oh yeah, let's try to take like this, like that, and like this. And yeah, I think we probably did about 80 takes. And they probably went for the 2nd or 3rd one. But yeah, I mean, sometimes clients definitely do not know what they want.
No. And they're really good lessons, those sessions and those types of experiences in patience, in endurance. And so even though it's not an enjoyable session, maybe there are other things you have to go, I'm getting this out of it, I'm getting practice in my client control, or
and it actually makes the Clem Fandango clips even more relatable.
Yeah. That was what I felt like when I was in the mouthwash booth, because I was like, this is unbelievable.
I love them too. They're so funny, these clips. Okay, so let's talk about specs more. Recently, as in just last week, the week before, a couple of my door builders, just for those who are listening and may not know, door builders are women who have volunteered their voice to revoice a script originally voiced by a man so that we can show brands and the general public that women have just as much authority and strength in voicing a NFL ad, a MLS ad, a beer ad than a man. So with that said, I get a lot of communication from my door builders, and two of them sent me some interesting specs. And I did a social media post on the Building Doors Instagram page this week about it. One was grandma, 45 to 55, white. I'll just pause there. I'll pause so everyone can think the obvious. Okay. And then the second spec the same week that someone sent me, and I want to make sure I get it right. So I am going to, I'm going to go, let's see here. I want to make sure I get it right. So I want to go to the post that I created because I don't want to get this one wrong because it is just as ridiculous. Okay. So 45 to 55-year-old white woman, grandma. And then this one was multiple roles, male, ages 23 to 38. Females, ages 23 to 34. So men get a 15-year age range and women get 11. And I'm also wondering who has the ears to hear a 3-year age difference.
Yeah.
So that was just 1 week of these two castings. Now, I could right now go on for the next 45 minutes about just what I said. Just what my thoughts are in the pause that I provided for everyone else. But I won't because I did it in our newsletter. I'd like to hear your thoughts on those specs.
Brilliant. God, where should we
Yeah.
begin?
Yeah. Keep going with the, yes, we could do just sound effects.
Yeah.
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 Okay, fine. I'll start. How can a 45-year-old woman sound like a grandmother? So let me just get this straight. So we see, God bless them, 18 and 19-year-old women on TV playing the single young mom or the mom, right? Now, they are cast. It's not their, they are cast. The person chooses to put this and just women in general, people are casting younger and younger to not the realistic version of what women in these roles are or should be. So there's already this unrealistic standard visually, which we all are aware of. But now you have to be 45 and sound like who sounds like what? All right, I'll stop.
When you first said that one, I was like, maybe they're just, I don't know. I thought maybe there's something wrong there and they just want someone to play a character voice. I don't know, like that. And then we got the other strange age brackets, which is just, it's totally bizarre because they're obviously being very specific, but I don't know. I think I honestly have no words to.
No.
I can't explain it. I don't know.
So you don't see stuff like that?
Well, no. Well, we definitely haven't seen stuff like that. No, I mean we see. We haven't seen. We normally, obviously, we get the age range, which is normal, but it's normally like 20s to 30s, and like with the ness, so it's not like specific.
I've never seen it that specific.
Yeah, no, definitely not, and we've never had like grandma 45. So no, I don't definitely.
Where was it from? Where was this? Can you say?
No, I can't say.
Was it a gaming or was it a commercial?
No, these are commercials.
Oh wow, yeah.
No, this wasn't like a character spot. Yeah. These are commercials, and I think what bothers women most is that yet again there is a standard being set of someone else determining how we need to sound. And
Absolutely.
And how are you supposed to sound 3 years younger than the male counterpart in the dialogue of the spot?
Yeah.
That's a very, it's just unfortunate, I think, on many levels. And I can joke about it and, but I think that the fact that we received 2 of those in 1 week, and I hope we never see that stuff again, but I have a feeling we won't. I have a feeling that there are people in positions of power. And when I say people in positions of power, I mean like the person who's hiring, right? Or the brand, or, that may not be aware. Like they just aren't, like, how does a 45 to 55-year-old woman sound like a grandma? Because I know plenty of women in their mid-50s who don't sound like they're in their mid-50s.
Yeah.
Right? Like they can easily play late 30s, early 40s. So, and voice is so different than on camera. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the joys, that's one of the joys of being a voice actor, is you can play, you can be so many things that you really aren't.
Yeah.
And to put those confines is just, it's sad, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we've never had anything like that. And I think if we did, we would be like, I think we'd probably go back to them and be like, what is this about? Because I mean, it just, I mean, especially if I was producing, if I got that, I would think.
So that was going to be my next question, is that, part of building doors that I really focus on is making sure there's actionable steps. So sure, we don't like that. That's great. Let's not all sit around and just talk about it. Let's do something about it. And so I wonder, could the agent then push back and say, this seems like a pretty tight age range. Could we like expand it? Like, do you think that that's, if you just want 20s, let's just say 20s and not 23 to, 28. And a grandma, you're saying a grandma, that sounds more like a, not necessarily an age range, but a voice quality. So maybe we could get rid of the age range and put vocal quality XYZ. Yeah. And so then I also suggested to my community, well, if a lot of you got that casting, let's form like, and there's groups, that Facebook groups and all this other stuff. Like, did you get this casting? Did you get this casting? Why don't we send an email collectively to the agent and say, would the client be interested in hearing people outside of that age range? Because it seems like grandma is more of a vocal quality than an age range, And what's unfortunate about all of my suggestions is that the onus is solely on the women's shoulders. And that's not necessarily, I think, the best way to go, but yet another thing that not only as voice actors, right? Because as voice actors, we all have to educate people anyways about, it's not about the length of time it takes. It's about the years that we've put into the craft that you're paying for. And here's why you don't want to use AI. And here's, there's so many things that we already do to educate our potential clients and clients. Now we're adding another layer to it. But I wonder if you have any suggestions other than the ones that I've provided, or any advice.
I think if we got that brief, we would definitely be going back to the client or the creative or the casting director and being like, and kind of saying, just want to make sure this is definitely correct, because it seems like you actually would rather this, that. And I think we would definitely want to protect our voices to say, like, it's not right, that kind of brief shouldn't really be a thing. But yeah, it's so tricky because you never know where that brief has come from, whether it's been like the top client, whether it's been the creative, whether it's been the account manager that has absolutely no idea about voiceovers and stuff like that. But it is good to start somewhere. If we receive that as the agent, say, go back to the producer or the creative and say, look, that's weird. This needs to be sorted, because I don't know why, maybe we could try it like this or like that. And then maybe they can then go back to whoever gave them the brief and say, yeah, shouldn't we do this? It's kind of got to be a bit of a filtering through back to the source.
Yeah, I think even just raising the question, because like we mentioned earlier, so much of production, especially commercial production, is so fast paced that wherever that message is coming from, if that's coming from the client and it's being sent to the creative, and the creative producer sending it to the casting director, and the casting director is like, I need to get this back tomorrow, they probably haven't thought as deeply about what it says. They're just going, here's the brief, wing it out. So I think actually to create that moment of pause by flagging it and going, So can you actually just define what these two things don't add up. So what are you actually looking for? And if they have to then take that question back, it makes people just have a little moment to consider what they've actually asked for. And it's hard because it shouldn't be an excuse that everybody's busy and they're not giving things, adequate thought and an intentional sort of, can't think what the word is, but the time that the brief deserves to get it right, and to not offend anybody. It's not an excuse, but I would imagine that in some places that is just what's happening. It's like some of these places, and me and Alex have worked in them. It is like a factory, and you just have to get on. And so if you've got like a young producer who's receiving this, they're probably just going, send it out to the agent, send it to this. So yeah, I think just always, in any way you can, just flagging it, questioning it. It puts it in people's minds for the future. You know what I mean? I think that's all you can do really, or just say, actually, that's made me feel really uncomfortable. I don't think this one's for me. And I think there's so much strength in doing that too. And we've done it. And there's a couple of brands and sort of topics that I said to Alex when we started the agency, if we get a briefing for that, I refuse to work on it. You've got to have your standards and hold true to, yeah.
And I think too, as we talked about the pendulum swinging really far with AI, and now it's kind of slowly notching its way back, I firmly believe from where I stand that voice actors are going to, the ones that adapt and pivot in this time, are going to be the ones that lead with themselves and human interaction. So you just mentioned that there are mills of production companies that just churn out, and they don't have time to form relationships. They don't have time to even look at specs, and they're sending stuff out. Well, maybe those are not the places that voice actors should be focusing their attention on. Mm-hmm. Maybe instead, they should be focusing on developing relationships with people like Foxy Tongue, who run a boutique agency, and with people that listen to all of their audition instead of just the first 2 to 3 seconds, and the ones that provide feedback and say, hey, why don't you redo it and do this? And people who are developing relationships, because that's where the long game is. It's not just this quick, let's get a quick 150, 250 job at this mill. It is developing relationships for the long run. It's really a marathon and not a sprint. And I think that goes along with this pendulum ticking back of more human interaction winning at the end of the day. But it's just now starting. So we have to really train for this marathon.
Absolutely that.
I was saying, I know that. I know getting an agent is really difficult, and obviously, me and Shana, if we could take everyone, we absolutely would. And we've had so many amazing, people, kind of reaching out to us. But where obviously it's just the two of us, we can't, and we've got such a big roster, and we've kind of closed our book, so we've kind of got the max we can kind of take on. But I do think having an agent is so important, because not only can you build a great relationship with the agent, and they can get to know you, get to know what you work on, get to know what your strengths are, get to push those kind of jobs that are saying that I would love this game, I would love that brand, and we can then go out and push for that. It also helps because of the whole money situation. 10 years ago, when me and Sean were working at our old company, the commercials, the fees that the voices were getting were unbelievable. And I know obviously things have changed with the industry and the economy and everything like that. But after COVID, everyone got the home booths and started kind of being voiceovers, and that were creating their own business. They were going straight to the source and straight to the client saying, I can do a commercial for you. They were bypassing the agent who have, we know how much things are. We know how much it would be to go on TV. We know how much it would be to go online, and kind of say, oh yeah, I'll take that £200, £200, that's absolutely fine. We would have been pushing for 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, and
10,000 minimum for TV.
I mean, I've just quoted something for 20,000, and that is just online and social, but it's the amount of impressions that they require. So things like that. Whereas voiceovers may not necessarily know the kind of the industry standard rates, and that's kind of lowering the overall kind of pricing, because clients going, oh, well, I can get it for that much. And it's like, well, no, you shouldn't be getting it for that much. That's way too low. You need to have it for this much, and things like that. So I do think, you know, having that relationship with your agent where we can fight for you, we can push for you to get the right fees, get the right brand for you, get the clients that you really deserve and want. I think that's just such an important thing, rather than going to the clients, the people that are in this kind of factory wheelhouse where they're just churning out edits and they just don't care. They're like, yeah, 100 quid, 200 quid, we don't care.
Our whole agency is built on that on human interaction, and it really was like, it was a starting point for, because our experience of agencies changed so much sort of in the past couple of years, and the heart had gone. And so I think that's why we're able to say that we're doing well, is because people actually are enjoying going back to, how was your weekend? Or I did this. You know, we're taking the time to really, you know, we get sad when people leave certain companies because we're like, oh, I've built up such a good rapport with that person. And I think that it really does. It just opens so many doors, because if they like you, they'll want to come back. If they know, you know, that you're in your spare time, you love doing this, and they want to support your business to support your life. You know, it's just all of these things. I think it's what we kind of work on, and it's done nothing but good for the business. So I think you're completely right in that the relationship to everything right now, people are sick of like just cold, efficient, quick turnaround sort of conversations. I think, yeah, now's the time to really be yourself and not be afraid to be a human. And as Alex mentioned, just having a really good relationship with your agent does so much for what we can do to sell you. And I think, you know, like I spoke to someone today who was like, I'm actually really struggling financially, and like I just need you to have that in your mind. And like, as much as I can't magic jobs in the door, what I can do is go, what are these person's strengths? Let me reach out to a few more companies that specialize in that. Let me have them at the front of my, you know, or send them a brief that I wouldn't usually, just to see if that character does suit them for this, you know. And so having someone else on your team rooting for you, and like, we have some voices that are in touch with us, you know, every other day, and they'll be like, this is what I've just voiced this, or I've just done this job. It means that we can sell them so much better. We feel like they're a friend and we're rooting for them. And so, yeah, it just does, it's much better to have that sort of relationship, as opposed to, you know, we might not hear from people for a few sort of months, and we'll be like, where did you go? You know, what have you been up to? Like, tell us, because we really want to be able to celebrate that and post about it and do all this stuff. So yeah, I think that's the bottom line, is just going back to relationships to everything. And yeah, as you said, I think spending time making, also, like, so many people have had their websites and stuff and their sort of socials for years and stuff, but actually going, maybe having a look back at, like, does this sell me as this super efficient professional, or do I actually give something away that makes someone go, oh, I'd love to work with that person, you know?
Oh, yes. Say it. Preach it. Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. Agree, because I know that clients they look at your social media. Yeah. They want to make sure that you are in line with what they stand for. And they don't want, in today's day and age, to be canceled. And so they want nothing to do with anyone that is extremist either way, right? And they do want to work with real people, nice human beings. And they do look. And so if you're only showing up as the crocheter, God bless you. Yeah, that's wonderful. But if all you're saying online is that you love to crochet, and I don't know, Coca-Cola is the one looking at your social media, and you know, I just think that it's important that we show our full selves, that we are well-rounded people, and that we're nice to work with. Show our personality, show a little bit about voice, and a little bit about something else too.
Yeah, that's why we took so much time building our website and like the individual VO pages to create to show that these voices are human beings. And like, we've got little fun facts. So we said to all our voices, like, put little fun facts so that when the clients are looking, they'll be like, oh, that happened to me, or oh, I do that too. So that when they go into the booth and the clients meet them, they go, oh, I saw your fun fact, by the way. And it's a nice conversation opener. And we include all their socials. We have little shorts and long bios, and we make sure we include the videos of if they're in, even if they've been like in the theatre or on TV or their own kind of Instagram pages. We've got some of our voices that are like, on social media, they do skits and stuff like that. And it's just something to get to know the person, especially in the whole, while everything's going on with AI, we can say, no, this is a human being right in front of you. They love cheese and chocolate and once in a cartwheel off the balcony and bras, I don't know, just kind of creating that. No AI can say that they love cheese and chocolate because they don't eat.
So I want to ask you one more question before we leave. And it's kind of a big one, but I'm hoping will summarize our conversation today. Voiceover actors clearly across the pond and here in the States are experiencing similar issues in terms of AI and the impact of their jobs on AI. We are experiencing similar challenges in standing out in the first 3 to 4 seconds. We are experiencing similar challenges in the sheer number. So we're competing against 900, 1,000, 1,500 people for one job. These are all things that we've established are pretty much the case. It's VO here and there is pretty much standard, the challenges. So I know that there are plenty of golden nuggets that you've dropped along the way in this conversation, but if you were to summarize in a quick sentence, what can voice actors do to adapt, pivot, and get through this time?
I think this doesn't summarize it, but just one thing I'm not sure we've quite expressed how important it is, and we sort of just touched on it then, is when people ask us how, I haven't had anything in a while, what can I do? Or, what is it that I should be focusing on? One of the first things we say is get on social media and post frequently and build this brand of you online where you are showing people how good you are, because it not only gives us something to repost as the agent, but more and more casting directors, authors, animators, producers, they're all online. They're finding their talent on social media, and it's so easy for, if you've got your booth there, to take a 30-second video of you reading a fake script that you've put together or found online, so that there's this whole library there of seeing you work, seeing how passionate you are, and letting someone be able to stumble upon you. I mean, there's been countless stories of people who have started doing that, and then an author's wanted them to read their series, or someone's gone, that voice is perfect for the game I'm about to cast, or, and even, using that to, if you love hiking, tailoring your scripts to that, tagging brands that you would buy from and use, because I think this is the way things are moving. Like you said, people are going to check out your social media. They're not, we spend most of our time on it. Like, why not have it as a bit of an online portfolio as well as a website? Yeah, but it's a real opportunity not only for you to sell yourself, but also it's kind of an excuse to spend more time honing your craft, because while you're finding that material and you're playing with different reads and you're listening back to yourself to choose what to put on social media, all the time you're spending time with your tool. And I think that, it's a really good way to spend your time. So we always say that to people, don't we, Alex? We're like, get online. I know people are scared of it. Especially, if you're not used to posting, it can feel really vulnerable because you've been behind, you've just been the voice, you've not been on the screen. But more than ever, I think now is the time, if you're going to be brave about something and you're serious about driving your work up, do that. And then follow agencies, follow casting producers, follow production companies and animation houses, because you just don't know. You just don't know.
Great advice. Alex?
I think definitely that. I think, like I said, we put our voices forward for so many different kind of things. And unfortunately, it might not work out and they might not have had some work for a while, and they'll reach out and we'll have a chat with them. We'll say, they'll say, what can I do? And it is just, obviously updating your reels every 1 to 2 years, because commercials do change. The trends are always changing. And obviously you've got to remain true to yourself. But there are some things like, last year, we had a massive increase in comedic briefs. Everyone wanted to be comedic or comedic background. So people were doing their reels and having a comedy script in there. Then this year became conversational guy next door, became urban, street kind of style. So the trends always changing. So I said, keep refreshing your reels every 1 to 2 years, and obviously because everyone's voices also do change as well, for whatever reason. Social media, like Siân said, is a huge one, because I'm personally not great at social media. I have I have to kind of constantly adapt, especially with, our Instagram, but it is something that forcing yourself to kind of get into that, you do notice, like, we repost anything our voices do, anything they tag us in or send to us, we post obviously work. And we do have a lot of casting director friends and producers, or anyone like, clients that kind of do look at our stories and our grid. So that's super important, just to show who we have. And it kind of puts them, like, when they see that post, they go, oh, that voice could probably work for this future campaign I'm doing, or this, new commercial brief that's coming. So that's really helpful. And I think just updating. We have it in the UK Spotlight. That's always good to refresh that, to show like the credits of things they've done, because it's always good to show new audiobooks they've done, commercials, gaming. So it shows obviously they're still getting the current kind of work in. But yeah, I think it is tricky, and it's one of those things where we know that our voices are so perfect for jobs that come through, and then we never hear back and we're like, no. But, I think, especially when it comes to AI, I do really believe that it will start to come back around to humans again, because people are sick of it. Like, producers, they're the ones that are working on it. They are fed up.
Mm-hmm. I think there's no easy answer. If we all knew the answer, then everybody would be working solidly. But just in that standing out, I mean, like we said, there's an element of bravery now in presenting yourself and sort of undoing a little bit of what you've learned in being this polished professional voiceover, in actually digging into who are you as a voiceover, as you're at your most human, and how could you be a bit bolder, in presenting that person who might be a bit more vulnerable and a bit less polished. So it's work, and we're all trying to figure out this new ground. But like I said, I think just stay positive as well. It's so important to know that there is work, and there's a lot of it, and it feels like you're fighting against everybody all of the time. But I would so much rather hire someone who is positive, gives me energy, is, sort of a joy to work with. And it can be really easy to lose that when you feel like you're in the fight all the time and you're just trying to be efficient. So just holding on to that element of you that is excited to be there, I think that's important too.
That's a great place to end it. Thank you so much. We've talked almost an hour. Can you believe it? As I can, because we always do. Thank you so much, Alex and Siân from Foxy Tongue Voices over in the UK, for coming onto the Building Doors podcast. And for those listening and watching, thank you for sharing your time with us. And until next time, let's keep building more doors. Bye.